Okay, folks, time for an update and actually something more, a little more Star Trek content related, because I think we're starting to lose people here with this, just constant whining. Technically, yes, we are now gainfully employed. We just got problems getting to that job, which is it's still in Florida. But the business is up and running. In fact, I can show you the web page here. Let's just say I am now a web designer. And in fact, that's the site right there. It's daybonwebdesign.com. Go there if you want. Our idea is to help out specifically small businesses, and so you can get a site that actually suits your needs and what you really want to say about your business. So yeah, the Daybon Web Design Group is Daybon Design is an unofficial sponsor of this thing until I crack 1,000, then we make an official sponsor. So, more to the point now, how with Discovery off, not much to talk about. No, there's always something to talk about with Star Trek, even Discovery. For instance, we can start doing a little more in-depth post-mortems here. In this case, what went wrong with Discovery? And don't fool yourself. Oh, it's perfect. No, it's not. It's far from perfect, and we need to figure out just what exactly led to this film disaster. I think we start with how it portrayed humanity in the form of its characters, in comparison with other Star Treks. Well, with the original show, you got it in the opening sequence. Talking about what is humanity doing? It's going out and exploring, contacting new life, a new civilization, boldly going no man's gone before. Yada yada yada. Next Gen, still doing it, but a little more carefully. With DS9, they're going out there and actually setting up shop and trying to make a difference in where they're at and not shirking their responsibilities. Voyager, you could say, is well, they're trying to get home, but they're trying to accomplish something on the way back. They're still exploring. They're still being started. They're still holding ideals. And Enterprise, it's kind of like original series, but a little more naive. Hey, we're friendly. We're not. Blam. And you compare it with like other shows, through the years, like Space 1999. How did they portray humanity through their characters? Adrift in a very hostile universe, no control over what they're doing or how they got there, and just wondering how they're going to survive week to week.
Mumbling.
Yeah. Battlestar Galactica is a little worse. Turn tail and running from the bad guys. Help us, get us out of here. So let's take a look. How did Discovery portray humanity in the form of its characters? Raven incompetence, who have trouble beating foes that would have no trouble, to a 5-year-old. And the solutions they come up with are half-assed and baked, and the way they portray the universe out there, it's not just bad and hostile, they'll eat you. So you're doomed.
And Michael Burnham is awesome.
And it all works out because Michael Burnham is awesome. But it's kind of like, Hunter Thompson talking about the doomed. This is what this show is. It's a show of the doomed. They're suckers. They're somebody else's lunch. Literally. They're doomed. That's it. And who wants to watch that week after week, really? It'll grate after a while. And you factor in that, the lack of care to continuity and the fan reaction. It's like, what the hell did they expect to happen when they just totally take a giant dump on 50 years of continuity? And try and pass it. No, it's in continuity. No, it isn't. Don't even try that crap. And wrong people in charge, for one thing. And the closest thing I had was Brian Fuller, and make no mistake, guys, his Trek credentials are not above reproach, okay? He was barely on DS9 before he jumped ship over to Voyager, where things were a little more fast and easy. And no, it's like when he was on Enterprise, and he was, I think, one of the ones arguing against having the Defiant having its own patch. Because he's one of those, I don't know if he saw the adjustment memo or just because he cited the few instances where they didn't have a separate patch. Where I think the issue hadn't been settled yet, really first season, where the Menagerie is the big example there. But he was outvoted. by people who like look more into the issue and also point out, well, look, we've seen Commodores, and they generally have the little starburst thing. Decker's patch is not a Commodore patch. That is an individual ship insignia patch. And Captain Tracy is a captain just like Kirk. He has that different insignia. There's different insignia, okay, for every ship. Or at least that was the idea there. I think we might be able to compromise an explanation somewhere down the line and say, okay, it's the fleet insignia. Like First Fleet, Second Fleet thing, because there's really, you know, as far as hard canonical thing, you got 4 different patches. So it'll be 4 fleets. With the Starburst thing being Starfleet itself. Like Starbase ground assignments. But that's another issue, you know. But basically, Fuller is not necessarily a hardcore canonista. And if you're doing a prequel show that close to the original series, in fact, with the Cage in the mix, technically during the original series, so you're really not even doing a prequel at that point. You're in the mix of it. You're doing a parallel show. And frankly, I mean, most of the phasers and the hand props were about the last thing he had any control over before he was shown the door. Even that is troubling. Because, come on. You know, I mean, he had enough sense to tell Les Moonves, you set this stuff like you got out there and there'll be a riot. And so sure enough there was. You should have, even the stuff he was doing would have caused problems. Especially if those Klingons were his idea. I think he spent too much time on Hannibal. Suddenly thinking cannibalism is something cool to put in a villain. Because, like, the Klingons were never cannibals. They didn't eat their enemies. Where the hell did you get that one from? And it's part of the whole thing. It's like, goes to the thing of, you know, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, and too many of those chiefs were at the network are thinking, we got to we got to really punch things up and make it really bigger and better, and, you know, and so the Klingons couldn't just be bad guys. They had to be misshapen monsters who eat you. And the uniforms couldn't just be, you know, no, they had to be, you know, marching band stuff with deltas all over the place. It's like, there are deltas on every damn thing. It's like, you go to a military, you don't see an Air Force insignia over every piece of thing that's not nailed down and half the furniture. The most you'll see is maybe a sign at the front gate. And a few signs at office buildings. And you know, you got a U.S. Air Force name tape on your fatigues and name tape. But you don't have, you know, you don't have U.S. Air Force stamped on every piece of equipment. They don't have the logo on the rifles and the pistols and the staplers and whatever else. And come on,
even Top Gun has that much.
Oh well, Top Gun was on an actual base too. So it's like, yeah, you got people that just don't know what the hell they're doing. Clearly, I mean, they can't even get the simple stuff right. How do you expect them to do the more complicated stuff like coherent storylines? So you know. So yeah, they got caught up in the Gwiz Factor of everything. How about we do it? And if, does this make any sense whatsoever in the storyline? It's like, you know, that's the old. I would, you know, if I were, you know, put in charge of this thing, I would have all the right to sit down with the original series guide, writer's guide, with special emphasis on part of take your storyline, put it in a real world scenario, or any other genre, western, cop show. With a similar type of situation, would these characters respond in the same way you're making these Star Trek characters respond? And if your answer is, you know, well, it's because it's science fiction, there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the ass on the way out. Because there's a nice long line of people waiting to write for this show for a lot less than you're charging, who know what the hell to do, okay? So there's no reason to put up with these idiots. And it's also just the whole wrong motivation for the show in the first place. There was no driving need to get this thing on the air except to promote CBS All Access. It wasn't, there was nobody, you know, coming in pitching, I got a great idea for a Star Trek show. It was CBS saying, we want to do a Star Trek show, come in and pitch ideas. And the fact that they didn't know a good idea when they saw it, is example of the Orville. That was, by all, you know, estimation, that was Seth MacFarlane's pitch for a Star Trek show. And it's the biggest hit Fox has ever had on Thursday nights. So, could have been you, CBS, but you screwed up. You could have had Fox's Golden Boy, but no. Something didn't make sense to you, I guess. No, we don't think that's right. It's perfectly Star Trek. It's Star Trek a little not so uptight, you know. It's the Next Generation with a corn cob removed from its ass. Okay, how about that? Yeah, a little jokey heavy in the front when they're trying to find the balance, but then by the end of the season, they got it balanced out. It's going pretty good. So it's a naked money grab, pure and simple, and everyone knows it. The fact that the rest of the world can watch this on Netflix, or Canada can watch it on Space. And here in the States, you got to pay CBS All Access to see it. Now, like I said, I didn't pay a dime to see it. You had other sources there. We're doing CBS All Access now, after it's already wrapped, for other reasons. Because it's hard to keep up with the soap operas, and also me for research. Because I had a question in my mind about Captain Garth of Izar, and I just fired up the episode and watched it a while ago. For the record, in case you're wondering, find out when what were all the references in the thing. Is Victory at the Battle of Axanar was required reading when Kirk was at the Academy as a cadet. So that should give an idea how far back at least 20 years, probably, if not a little longer. But also taking into account what Garth's apparent age is. So unless he was using that morphing technique of his to make himself look younger than he really is, I'd probably put it in the neighborhood about 20 years previous to the episode. So about. In which case, when I saw the shooting script for Axanar, they had it just about right. Because you had April and the Enterprise coming, and the Enterprise wasn't quite finished yet. I think it's I'm not really giving away much because this thing's been out for a while. But basically, the Enterprise, the warp drive wasn't installed yet, but it got into the battle by it got a tow, and I was able to participate once it was there. But yeah, there was a brand new ship at that point. So around 2240, about right. So, where do we go from here? Now, I think I've said something similar to before, but basically, you got two options. There are probably other variations on it, but for the most part, either one, admit it was a mistake, pull the plug, come back when you have a decent story to tell. Otherwise, leave us the hell alone and stop screwing things up. Worse for everybody else. And don't have it done by committee. You got a producer you believe in, and leave them the hell alone. Don't be peppering them with notes. And you got to try this. So you got to put monsters, and monsters are big this year. Or you got you wanted grim and greedy. Went with lots of bolts and nuts and greebles all over the damn ship, whether it makes any damn sense or not. And explosions and naked chicks and stuff. And somebody's got to say the F-bomb. That's what Game of Thrones. And we got to see. Let's have a couple of beheadings, okay? Yeah, that may have been where the whole thing with the cannibalism gets done. Let's go really gross. Okay? What can be something that network TV would do? I know. They'll be cannibals. Let's have Captain Giorgio eaten for dinner by the Klingons. It's like Game of Thrones works because it's Game of Thrones. Okay? Not because they, the naked chicks help a lot, but that's just, that just brings you through. I get it. The story works because it's a story, okay? I guarantee you, if George R. R. Martin wrote a Star Trek script, it would not look anything like Game of Thrones, okay?
Hell no.
Unless it was all in the Klingon. Then you could have all kinds of fun with Game of Thrones stuff like that way. But if you want to still have a show, then basically fire everybody above the line. I'm talking every executive, all those 13, 14 executive producers, just show them the door.
Except for maybe Nick Meyer.
Maybe, Nick Meyer's the consulting producer, I think. He's not even an executive producer. But when your executive producers outnumber your cast, that is a serious problem. That shows it's just being promoted by committee. Then they're following whatever, way the wind is blowing, and that's not the way you do a show. There's a reason why the shows in the old days, even some of them today, you have that created by Gene Roddenberry, Quinn Martin production, Irwin Allen, Donald Belisarius. You have a name
Belisarius.
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 Whatever. Okay. I'm making a point here. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing is, there was somebody in charge. And it's like, yes, Roddenberry was a pain in the ass to the network. That's why they, definitely rushed Star Trek out the door as fast as they could once they got settled with it. But he knew a thing or two that you got to sometimes stand your ground and tell the network to go screw itself. You got to plan with this thing. Freaking trust me, or cancel me. One of the. But yeah, it's like fire everybody, bring in a whole raft of veteran Star Trek producers who know what the hell they're doing and also know how the chain of command works in these situations. I don't know if you bring in Rick Berman and all that, but there's a lot of people just below that, who have enough experience. Robert Stephen Bear, I think he could eat this all over the place.
Braga.
Ron Moore, even Brandon Braga, I think he's mellowed, but he's gained a little better respect for the whole thing. And you got tech people and artists at the wazoo: Michael Kuda, Rick Sternbach, Andy Probert.
Okay.
John Eves keep around. And I get and probably a lot of the people who are still around on our staff, I guess. But the thing is, the big thing is, so they stopped getting stupid orders from up on high to design these idiotic ships and not idiotic. It's like, where does this fit into a Star Trek thing?
What's his name? The guy with the kind of German name that used to.
What, Rick Colby?
Rick Colby, yeah.
He's mainly the director, but
Yeah, bring him in.
But yeah, it's like you bring in and get some directors in there who've done John Frakes was great, LeVar Burton would be great, But the main thing is the writing. Frankly, a TV show should have no more than 1 or 2 executive producers. Preferably 1. The rest of them just, a couple of producers, 1 for the money and 1 for the creative side. And then you put a bunch of writers. Whether story editor or 2 to keep it in herd on them. But this thing, 13 executive producers, it's like, who the hell thought this would be a good idea? Like I said, bring in some veterans and who know what the hell they're doing and just see if it can be salvaged or at least put to sleep with a little bit of dignity. Because any pretense that this is mainline Star Trek, when the Enterprise showed up, that's it. They just shot you out on that one, guys. Every opportunity you had to make it mainline Star Trek, you blew sky high, and this was just the cherry bomb on top of the sundaes.
Okay.
Forget it. Ice cream everywhere. Nothing resembling that.
Well, I gotta say they had a decent cast. It was just the rest of it.
Again, the cast is fine, but get them in the right costumes and take all the late. One thing I would love, Mary Chieffo was going to be. I think she's going to. I know she's going to be Starfleet. She's going to be some convention. I know she's listed some convention. I even got a email from.
Well, that one in Birmingham, England.
Well, Destination Star Trek. I would like to get her up on stage during one of these little Klingon makeup demonstrations that they do, where they put the turtle on the head and the hair. Put her up there. Let her know what it's like to go through a proper Klingon transformation. And say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, prime timeline, Laurel. What do you think?
She'd probably be all
just
over
give
that.
her the hurt and the hair and just the regular, and so she can actually emote and not talk like she's got a mouthful of sharpened marbles.
Yeah.
Her regular eyes. I think she's got like brown eyes. But they give her this pale, light, context. She's about to Hulk out or something or other. It's ridiculous. I think whenever you bring in an art department thing where like one of the edicts is don't do anything like the original series, when your show is set during the original series, I have to keep going back to the Western comparisons. It's like doing a show that's supposed to be running alongside Gunsmoke, but you can't do anything that looks like the Old West or 1870s Kansas. And, yeah, you're gonna have Indians, but they can't look like Indians. Make them look like Zulu warriors or whatever, with turtle heads.
Weird.
It's like. I'm more convinced now that the only reason that Kurtzman and Orsi do okay with like Hawaii 5 stuff is they're constrained by a real world environment, and their more peculiar tendencies are reined in by the fact that no, we can't have Commander McGarrett sprout an arm and leap from island to island. It's like that doesn't work that way. And actually, they have gotten into trouble with it because there was one time they were shooting. Was it the Punch Bowl?
Yeah, the National Cemetery.
No, there's a National Cemetery out there, and the camera crew and stuff were kind of trooping across graves without really thinking about it.
And telling veterans to get out of the way.
And there were veterans there showing up there to pay respects to their, sometimes their fallen comrades. And they were, you got to, like, hey, like, you're, again, the old phrase, honored dead. In this case, it was dishonored dead because it's.
I think even Peter Lenkov had a few words with them.
Yeah, well, again, he's the executive, big executive. He can't be on the set all the damn time, certainly not on location. But I imagine there are some sharp words done at the time, because we are talking veterans, so as in people who are not adverse to harsh words, especially when pointed at someone who clearly hasn't got a clue. I mean, it made the news, so.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but that's where we're at there. We're just, it's either bring in someone who knows what they're doing or just put it to sleep and, declare it a failed experiment and move on. And wait till somebody actually comes in and say, I've got a great idea for a Star Trek show, and not, hey, we want to do a Star Trek show, bring us some ideas, and we'll pick and choose what we think might be worth. Especially when it's picked and choose by someone who, up until recently, literally did not know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. I'm talking about you, Moonves. How the hell are you supposed to say you know what a good Star Trek story is when you didn't even know what Star Trek was 5 years ago? It was just a source of red ink as far as you were concerned. Okay?
And you wonder why I think he's an idiot.
Well, I'll give him props. He made CBS a behemoth amongst the TV network. He did something right. But there are certain areas he has no clue. And science fiction and fantasy is one of them.
Exactly.
I mean, when they're going to see whatever Star Wars movie it was, maybe it may have been The Force Awakens, or one of the prequels, and shouldn't they be paying us something for that we own that? No, this is Star Wars. We own Star Trek. We'll do your memo in the morning, now, Les. Okay? Yeah. Seriously, that seriously happened. He was wondering why they weren't getting any money from the Star Wars stuff because he thought that was part of the Star Trek. And no, it's separate things to it. That's have Julie explain it to you. Okay, she might know more. Yeah, we better start wrapping this up here. So yeah, PayPal, Patreon down below, and also I'm going to include a link to the Dave on Web Design. So you can, if you have a link to, or if you know somebody who might want to do a web page, you give us, send us your info. We'll see what we can do for you. Yep. And I'll catch you later.